Public Elections. We are going to start with the chair detects a almost quorum. So while waiting for quorum, we're going to start a consent agenda. Item number 1 is going to be on consent. Item number 2 is going to be on consent. Item number 3, consent. Item number 4, consent. Item number 5, I'm not sure. I really want to know more about Wheel of Fortune, but it's going on consent. Item number 6 is on consent. Taking us to...
Wheel of Fortune is a student from Fisk that won College State.
What?
Item
Wow.
number 9 is not on consent. Item 10 is not on consent. Okay, and with that, we have our consent agenda set. So, reading through that, and now we do, the chair does shut the door, thank you. Somehow it like echoes down here a lot worse than anywhere else. Shut that door, please. So, consent agenda is RS 2022-1927 by Syracuse and others. Honors the life of Peter Cooper. Number 2 is RS 2022-1928, recognizes World War II veteran Virgil Luther Mann. That is by Councilman Druffel, both on consent to be approved. Item number 3, RS 2022-1929 by Murphy, on consent to be approved, recognizes Hetty Weinberg's service as Executive Director of the ACLU of Tennessee. Item number 4 is on consent to be approved. RS 2022-1930 by Swar and others, honors James Henry Jake Sherrill and recognizes his contribution to Nashville. Item number 5 on consent, RS 2022-1931 by Council Lady Hurt, congratulates Fisk University student Kellen Franklin for his appearance on Wheel of Fortune's College Week. Item number 6, RS 2022-1932 by Vircher, on consent to be approved, recognizes the TSU Tigers volleyball team as the 2022 Ohio State Conference champions. And that is the end of our consent agenda. Does anybody have any issues with what is on consent? Anything need to be pulled off? All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in approval?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? With that, our consent agenda is approved. That takes us on to late items. We're going to start with 2 late amendments to RS 2022-1827. Van Rees and O'Connell, a resolution approving a term sheet. Let's back this up. I've got it listed as one thing. Okay, they have this, it's just listed on the agenda funny. So, RS 2022-1827 is a resolution approving term sheet describing the terms and conditions of the agreement and transactions required to finance, construct, and operate a new enclosed multi-purpose stadium on the East Bank, subject to the subsequent approval of final agreements, and authorizing the Metropolitan government to pursue other matters related thereto. So these are only going to be relative to the late nature that we're discussing in here of these 2 amendments. The first one listed is late amendment number 9 by Council Lady Van Rees. Council Lady Van Rees, would you like to come up to, we've got a hot seat, or you can just stand in the hot area and discuss the nature of your late item as to why are you late, not necessarily the substance unless it's relative to why you're late.
No, I'm like, what do I? I've been in the hot seat. All right.
Welcome to the new rules committee.
That's fine. So the reason this is late is because last night in committee, some really incredible discussion took place that left me thinking about ways that we could combine a lot of different opportunities to match the responsibilities that we have as a city. So it was filed today because the opportunity just presented itself.
And it's my understanding that this is kind of picking pieces of others, and you've worked with other council members in that committee. Are there other council members that would like to speak to this? Council Lady Benedict, please join in the hot area.
Thank you. I've
In the
not
hot
been in
square.
this hot square either. So this in particular, this has to do with the Amendment 8 that I had filed, which is in regards to naming rights for a potential new stadium. And this is something I was working with the team and with the administration on since last night to get some terms put together that would be acceptable and provide. And so we were just able to get that done, and Councilmember Van Rees was working simultaneously with the administration. So I That's why it's late.
I guess just because we're gonna have a lot of amendments, do you wanna go ahead and tell us anything about your plans for your other amendment? Because that could relate to the late nature and acceptance and approval of the late nature in here.
That will be withdrawn.
All right. Any questions from the committee about the late nature here? Any comments? All right. It sounds like y'all have been collaborative and taking committee discussion and rolling this together. So I personally don't have a problem with the late filed nature of it because I do appreciate, I know it's difficult when we have committees and our filing deadlines are before committees happen. And since we can't do verbal committees on the floor, I think that's, as chair, my impression is I think this is a good use of our late filing suspensions. Any other thoughts, concerns? Okay, we are okay. It sounds like the Rules Committee is okay with the late filed nature.
Yes.
Okay. Councilman O'Connell, come on down to the hot square.
We should put a heater on there.
Is it toasty? Glad they left it toasty for you. Councilman O'Connell, would you like to tell us the nature, if it's relative to if the substance is relative to the reasoning behind your late filed
Yes,
amendment?
thank you, Madam Chair. There are a couple of reasons. One, there is, everybody knows, there has been a lot of information about this resolution that has been late breaking, including the council Q&A document, which was updated as recently as yesterday, which I was constantly looking for, similar to Councilmember Van Rees, looking for opportunities to address some of the concerns that I've heard over and over again. I was pulling information from that yesterday. The ink was drying on this as Budget and Finance was gaveling in, but I knew I was not actually going to be able to attend that meeting, and I did not ask Ms. Darby to present it because I wasn't even going to be able to be there to speak on its behalf. And I said I'm comfortable just pushing to tomorrow since we had literally just finished the amendment right as Budget and Finance was coming in.
So this hasn't, the substance of your amendment has not been discussed in any committee?
That is correct.
Okay. The reason I asked that question is because the previous one, while also late filed, I feel more comfortable with because the substances had been discussed.
To an extent, I agree. I think
But your
there's a lot
substance
new.
has not been
That is
discussed.
correct, yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madeline, if you could have attended the meeting yesterday, would that have changed the late file nature or no?
Yes, because I would have intended to present it in Budget and Finance, but we had a months-old family commitment on the calendar that I could not reschedule.
Do you have any other co-sponsors or council members that would like to speak on your behalf of the late filed motion?
I don't actually know. Ms. Darby, did you get
I'm sorry, what?
Did you get any confirmation of co-sponsors on my late filed amendment?
Not as of the time of after
Okay.
circulation.
Anything else from the committee as to the nature of the late filed?
I mean, I would just ask that, did your amendment come about from any of the, meetings that we had leading up to?
Oh, sure. I mean, the content is drawn from the resources from the East Bank Stadium Committee process. So the substance is all drawn directly from that in the council Q&A.
But not discussed on the floor with other council
Correct.
members. So this would be a fresh discussion, fresh issues. Okay. I'm not gonna oppose the late filed nature, although I think that, because we have others, but this committee, as we've discussed several times, we've got to crack down. And I understand, again, like I said, committees happen and filing deadlines are before that. But this is one that at least probably could have been presented in a way to be discussed by the committee that it would be going before in some way. Was it in the packet for budget?
No. So that was primarily because I was not going to be able to be there to speak on it.
Okay, so we're just now seeing it today. I'm not going to object to it, but we'll take a poll. Rutherford?
I'm not going to object to it, but it's kind of gray area.
I'm not going to object to it in here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna object to it.
Yeah, I'm not going to object to it because I do see that it would be something that would need to be discussed today.
Yeah.
Although, it would be great in the future to have it a couple of days earlier.
Totally
And
understand.
then next 10 months, Freddie? You need to tell your family your other priorities on Mondays.
Holidays and family travel collide.
I'll talk to Violet and Haley about this.
We should cancel.
Can, and you will regret it.
Tanika,
I'm
any
not gonna
thoughts?
object because it's several other council members that weren't in committee yesterday to hear the concerns expressed either, so it's in alignment with the other amendment as well.
All right, Council Lady Van Rees and Councilman O'Connell, your fate is on the floor, and we will see you there. Late amendment to RS 2022-1905 by Council Lady Hurt. If you would like to move on into the hot square or seat. This is a resolution appropriating $10 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds from Fund Number 30216 to the Fisk University for renovations and upgrading of Burris Hall in a public-private partnership with Metro government to establish a small business entrepreneur and innovation facility in North Nashville. Ms. Darby, just before we begin, can I get clarification because it's not on here? Is this a resolution that would come before us anyway, or are we only dealing with the late nature?
No, this is only the late nature.
Okay.
The late-
So Council Lady Hurt, what is your emergency late filed reason?
Well, recently I was appointed a superhero and I've been fighting crime all over this county. Doesn't make me good.
I had heard some rumors.
This was a secret.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was-
yeah. So now you're outed.
Right.
Now you're outed, so.
Thank you. So, the Minority Caucus actually had a meeting last week, and we discussed the fact that this was a resolution that was to serve the minority community, specifically in North Nashville. And I really think, even though it hasn't been stated, I think it's really a response to the opposition to the Jefferson Street cap, because many of the residents said that they wanted affordable housing and better businesses, opportunities, and support. And this is one of those things that would provide that business support. And because it is minority and we have had a Nashville Business Incubation Center, and we've seen historically that people who were in that center were not from this county, the majority of them. So we wanted to make sure that those funds that they had been designated for and the purpose, that it was actually going to reach that populace of people. And that meant that we needed to add some numbers to it to ensure that those numbers were there. And the previous amendment did not have those numbers because the legal counsel had to ensure that being able to put the type of verbiage that added some numbers to it would be appropriate. And they found that it was, so we are now presenting it with those numbers.
And so the actual resolution is sponsored by who?
It was actually sponsored, the original one was sponsored by me, but this one was sponsored by Councilmember O'Connell.
Okay,
And I was
Councilman
a
O'Connell
second.
has scooted out of the room.
Yeah, I was the second sponsor on it. I just asked him to do it because I wanted people to see that there was diverse in terms of sponsoring such legislation, and it was not just someone that represented that North Nashville community asking for this, but it is amongst the entire council that they see value and appropriateness in the resolution.
So as to the reason for the emergency late filed and why this cannot be rolled to the next meeting?
Because it is going to be, the original resolution is going to be acted on this evening, and we have an amendment that does ask for the separation of individual people like the alum and the students and the minority community, but it did not have the numbers, and we wanted the numbers to be added to codify what the resolution and make it a part, and make it more legal and
And Councilman O'Connell is not willing to defer to the next meeting for this to be timely filed?
no.
Okay. And why wasn't this timely filed if the minority caucus met last week?
Because the amendment was filed, but they did not put the numbers on the amendment.
This is an amendment to an amendment.
It's an amendment to an amendment. The numbers were not there because legal counsel was not sure that they could actually add the numbers. And since that time, they found that they could add the numbers, so they were added.
Okay. So that's the late nature. That's what we're getting to in committee. On the floor, I would like to hear Councilman O'Connell say that he's not willing to defer this to make it a timely filed amendment, because again, we are all trying to work to make sure things are timely filed. Yeah, Ms. Darby, do you know, is there a deadline on these funds or being appropriated, that this has to happen before the end of the year, or there's some reason that this can't be bumped to the next meeting?
I believe all the ARP funding has to be dispersed or obligated by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026.
Okay, so there is not a time there's not a time limit by the end of 2022. So this could technically, unless it's the intent of the sponsor to pass it through tonight, this could be done at the first meeting in January without endangering the funds.
I am unaware of whether there are some contractual arrangements that are underway for the construction that are waiting on the funding. I don't know about that, but but with regard to ARP, general funding, 2024 and 2026 are the deadlines.
So it does, I guess, can I roll this a spot and we try to get Councilman O'Connell in here? You mind?
No, I
Roll
don't.
a spot? Because again, we're trying to, this committee is really trying to get to the heart and the meat of late file.
Right, and I get
things.
that, and I understand that.
So I wanna
and
make sure that we're touching on
we,
that, so let
we
me just
know
roll
that
you a
it
spot.
passed in Budget and Finance last night, and
With
that's
the
when,
amendment,
but not with the numbers.
but not with your late
That's when
amendment.
we found out that the numbers had not been added.
Okay.
So that's why we went and added it
So it was
today.
more of something that was requested but not put on there.
Right,
Because they weren't sure if they could add it.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to.
right. So, I mean,
Here we
I'm actually okay to defer if that's what, we need to do.
This is more of a clarifying amendment because it wasn't an amendment that was timely filed.
Right.
All right, then we can stop our hunt for Councilman O'Connell, I think. I am okay with this late filed amendment because this was information that was needed but was not available at the timeliest filed moment.
Correct.
Thank you.
I've been okay with it.
Everybody else good?
Like, we're going,
Yes.
yeah.
All right, we are okay. We are, again, this committee has to get down to the bottom of these emergencies, not just like, I want to get it passed this year instead of waiting a meeting. Because that's what's gotten us into trouble. Council Lady, you sound fine from us. We'll see you on the floor. Moving
Well,
on.
thank you, I certainly appreciate that, Madam Chair.
Scoot out of my hot seat, please. Council Lady Sepulveda, you've got a proposed substitute, correct?
Yes.
Wait. I need you.
You still have 4.
Good, I only have 7 on the committee. All right, we're good. Council Lady Sepulveda, BL 2022-1528, amends Title II, Title VI, Title VII of the Metropolitan Code, amending the membership of various boards and commissions. Council Lady Sepulveda, I will make a motion to approve to get the bill properly before us. Would you explain your substitute so we can then have a motion on that?
Yes, so the substitute came out of work meeting that we had with the administration and some of the board chairs, trying to figure out if there was anything we were missing from the legislation, and so we have included a lot of that in this substitute. And the bill overall reworks the way we appoint members to boards and commissions, having a certain number of them come from the council body. That way we're able to nominate more people from the community that we might know, and try and diversify a little bit. So I am thankful for the administration for working with me on the substitute, and we have made quite a few gains when it comes to diversity on boards and commissions. And that's changed with this administration, and we still are working towards bettering this opportunities for different people, different perspectives. So that's what this does.
Great, then I'll make a motion on the proposed substitute. I have a second. All those in any questions on the substitute? All right, all those in favor of the substitute?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right, with that, we are on your bill as substituted. Any questions on the bill as substituted? All right, motion and second on the substitute, on the
So moved.
pro substitute. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Any abstentions? With that, you are approved from
Thank
rules. Taking us to elections and confirmations. So we have tax incentive and abatement committee and tax study and formulating committee. 4 members appointed by the election of the Metropolitan government, of which 2 may be elected from the Metropolitan Council's membership. Council members that are nominated to the committee do not need to appear before the Rules Committee. Somebody didn't check with me about that, but that's just kidding. Charles Robert and is Fiona? I didn't see Fiona. Okay, I didn't see you. Do y'all want to scoot on up to the hot seats? Somebody can bring their own.
I'll bring my own.
Yeah.
I already thought, okay.
You were incognito, Fiona, so I
know.
didn't see you. So we have Fiona Halter, who is nominated by Council Lady Allen, and Charles Robert Bone, who is nominated by Council Lady Allen. She's clearly trying to stack her committee here, but that is all right. I'm going to assume we have some questions. The normal questions are: do you live in Davidson County? Do you serve on any boards and commissions of Metro? And are you a registered voter?
Yes, no, yes.
Yes, no, yes.
Excellent. With that,
tricky, right?
yeah, I know. I wanted to mix that up a little bit. So that gets you
Gotta pass
first, the first hoop. So Charles Robert, why don't you start with why would you want to do this?
Well, because,
Again.
again, in part because Council Lady Allen asked me to.
She
well,
twists arms.
Actually, she told me to. So I did have the pleasure of serving on the MDHA board and as chair of MDHA, and also with Councilman Mendez served on the prior TIF study and formulating committee. My understanding is this one would be a little broader, but over the last 10 years have seen how TIF and other incentives in the city work, and certainly have an interest in helping kind of recalibrate that for the future.
Fiona?
I've lived here 15 years, have 20 years experience in the built environment. I live here, but I've also been part of the growth for what I do for a living, and just know that this tool is something that could be utilized in helping with some of the needs, and I'm just wanting to serve my community and serve.
All right, and you both feel you have the commitment for what Council Lady Allen has voluntold you to do?
Correct.
All right. Councilman Rutherford.
I have no questions.
Councilman Hancock.
Who is your council member?
It's in the packet.
I see that it says their district. I would like to know if they know who their council member is.
Councilmember Pulley.
And Angie Henderson.
Council Lady Vercher. Any questions?
No.
All right. With that,
Nothing?
she's saving it for the floor. She's saving it for the floor. All those in favor of approving Mr. Bone's qualifications onto the floor?
Aye.
Any against? Any non-voting? You've made it to the next level.
Feels like a game show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ms. Halter, I'm moving to approve you to the level up, and so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right, we will see you on the council floor. And I think you have a good chance. Yes. All right, proposed rule change. Tom Cash, I think we've been over this.
Yep.
And I appreciate you letting us defer it to make sure there was no heartburn or added things in this automatic deferral. And so I'm gonna make a motion to approve on this, so that's properly before us. Do we have any discussion about this? Councilman, did you have any other, Councilman Rosenberg isn't here to double check for Oxford commas, but any other English professor items we need to take up in Rule 8?
I don't think so. I just think, I don't think I'm changing anything. I think I'm just, with staff's help, improving on some wording to make a couple of things clearer. I think that before, on the without discussion or debate, or discussion, it was kind of up to the will of the chair. I think following our rule change, since it's going to be clearer, we will see the chair being stricter about it, I'm suspecting. So we might, remember that if in the future we find that we've tied our hands too much, we can change it again.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. I motion to approve. There is a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, Councilman, for hanging out through us. And I believe that is the end of our agenda, although it wasn't stapled. Is there anything else on y'all's agenda that I missed? Okay, with that, we are adjourned.